Welcome to the Rise Above Project. I'm your host, Joe Perroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, champion bodybuilder, and I've been a personal trainer for about 30 years. This podcast is about helping people with their emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness. I value strength, toughness, and truth. I despise complacency, the victim mentality, and following the herd. If you find my work to be valuable, please subscribe to my channel and tell a friend.
Today, I want to give my personal and professional opinion as to why women in general are doing better than men in the modern world. I'm going to give you my hypothesis first for a starting point, and then I'm going to investigate my point of view with a little more depth. This will give you, the listener, a better chance to follow my line of thought and to come up with your own opinions along the way. So here's my theory. The willingness to face anxiety, the ability to manage anxiety, and the courage to transform anxiety into personal growth is absolutely essential to be a productive person who is worthy of adulation. Modern superficial society embedded with technology, the latest conveniences, and social media has made it easier and more acceptable for males to avoid the life-affirming catalyst of anxiety. Young boys and men are declining due to having the choice of taking the path of least resistance. On the flip side, women's role in society has expanded, which creates anxiety. In addition, women can't avoid anxiety as easy as men because the world is inherently dangerous to women. And I'll be a little bit more specific on that assertion later. Women's ability to live and to prosper while living with anxiety helps them to outperform men. And I'm obviously not a woman, but if I was going to say what I believe are the most important elements a woman needs in her life, I would say it is safety, security, and a reasonable amount of trust in the people around her. These needs may be conscious or unconscious, spoken or unspoken, but these needs are more of a necessity than a luxury. Many studies show that women are far more likely to live with fear and anxiety than men. This leads many women to live with various degrees of suspicion, paranoia, and hypervigilance. Society in general, and men in particular, don't seem to understand this. Anxiety is perceived as being the problem, or in worst case scenarios, the woman herself is perceived to be the problem. Anxiety and fear are not the problems. They are symptoms and natural responses to living in a problematic world that is dangerous to women. As human beings, we are all equal under the sun, but that doesn't mean that we all experience life equally. I, as a man, have never worried about walking through a parking lot at night. I don't worry about running alone or dating or meeting someone without first notifying my friends or family just in case something bad happens. In my life, as well as with many other men, a bad date is when somebody doesn't meet my expectations. For a woman, a bad date can have a much more sinister result. While men present with symptoms of such as anger and violence when they perceive themselves as being emasculated or rejected, women present with symptoms of fear and anxiety based on their concern of being harmed, raped, or killed. Or said in another way, while men worry about getting their egos bruised, women worry about being sent to the ER or to the morgue. 91% of rape victims are female. And yes, 9% of the victims are male, but most of the perpetrators were other males. There are studies that suggest men may experience as much sexual assault as women, but those studies include the prison population, which is almost exclusively males assaulting other males. Approximately 25% of women have been sexually assaulted, and 6.5% of women, or we can say 3 million women in the United States, have endured rape as their first sexual experience. How do you think that changes women's view of men? Even worse, The perpetrators are usually not strangers. Over 80% of the perpetrators are known by their victims. When women allow themselves to be vulnerable in a stable relationship, they still must be careful because they may be picking their executioner. 93% of women who are murdered by their husband or boyfriend. Obviously, women have good reasons to be guarded and to value their safety. Men who claim not to understand this or lack empathy for what it's like to be a woman in a violent world, they change their mind real quick when they have a daughter of their own to take care of. Throughout U.S. history, women have endured various degrees and types of social, cultural, and economical diminishment and marginalization. Although I don't think a reasonable person would argue that treating people poorly is a good thing, I am reminded that Nietzsche said, "That which does not kill me makes me stronger." And I'm also reminded that a pearl is nothing more than a response to an oyster's irritation. People who are subjected to navigating through difficult times and situations have the opportunity and potential to gain incredible strength. They tend to be infinitely stronger than those who are coddled or are too comfortable. The historical marginalization of women, along with a woman's life of living with some significant level of anxiety, have prepared them to live with pressure and under difficult circumstances. As women have been given full social and economic access and are now fully participating in society, they are outperforming men in almost every area. Some people are referring to this as the boy crisis or are trying to sell the thought of a war against men. Although I believe that technology and social media disproportionately affects boys negatively, there is absolutely no evidence to support a boy crisis or a war against men. However, women are outperforming men in almost every area of life. Women get better grades in high school. Women are more likely to graduate, more likely to go to college, get a college degree, go to law school, go to medical school, move out of their parents' house before a boy does, more likely to buy their first house, buy a car, more likely to afford the means to have a child. They're better at paying off their student loans, managing their taxes, buying health insurance, and women are better than men at investing. And throughout all of that, it's also worth noting that women still do most of the housework. The fitness industry landscape has also changed. When I first started bodybuilding, it was relatively rare to see serious female fitness enthusiasts, and it was even more rare to see a female trainer. Females now make up about 50% of gym members, female trainers are abundant, and bodybuilding competitions have more females than males. Generally, women are able to adhere to a fitness and nutritional program better than a man. And why is this? I believe it's because women have extreme social and cultural pressure to be aesthetically pleasing throughout their whole life. Therefore, following a self-improvement program is a natural transition. Bodybuilding, and I hate to say this, bodybuilding as a sport for men is dying. It has been overrun by men who are choosing to compete in relatively new classes where they can wear board shorts. This class doesn't judge legs, which allows its participants to not work as hard. They don't need to be completely developed from head to toe with proportion and symmetry to be successful. They don't even need to construct a routine which displays creativity and artistry. As embarrassing as this is for me to admit, no one is forcing these men to battle for mediocrity and accept less from themselves. They are willfully and willingly choosing to work less and therefore be less. Standards have been lowered from men. And worse yet, the lower standards is what attracts them. They now have greater leeway as to what is socially acceptable. Therefore, most modern men lack the laser-like discipline to reach a specific goal. Conversely, women are aspiring for more. And while society holds high standards for women, women still hold high standards for themselves. Therefore, women do have laser-like discipline. But men are outperforming women in some areas. Males spend more time playing video games. They spend more time masturbating. They spend more time doing drugs. And they commit suicide at 4 times the rate as women. The war on men is better characterized as being self-inflicted harm, where many males are willfully waving the white flag of surrender. Many males are glorifying turning away and are voluntarily abdicating responsibility to avoid the natural stresses and anxieties of life. As mentioned earlier, women live in a relatively dangerous world. Thus, they can't and are not afforded the luxury of avoiding or circumventing anxiety. Most women live with various levels of anxiety due to their environment. None of these facts can be translated to believing that there is a war on men. Males today are graduating from high school and going to college at increasing rates more than males from earlier times in history. However, they are not improving as fast as women because women have broken out of their previous socially constructed roles which were holding them back. And there is ample evidence throughout history that suggests when an individual or group of people are oppressed, that they adapt and become stronger. If you don't think that that's true, then ask one of your Jewish friends what they think about the Israeli military. Women are displaying this adaptation and strength on a regular basis. The relationship between males and anxiety has changed as society has changed. There has been a slow cascading of events that have changed the landscape in which masculinity is developed. And to be clear, someone can be born a male, but it takes hard work and the correct application of effort to develop masculinity and manliness. The burden and responsibility of the military is handled by volunteers and has not been mandatory since 1973. Men are not expected to be breadwinners. Physical education is not mandatory in all schools anymore. Participation in contact sports, such as football, wrestling, and boxing, have been declining. Boys need to run. They need to jump, sweat, bleed, be covered in dirt and mud, compete, argue, speak up for themselves, learn to lose and deal with disappointment, learn to win with humbleness, and be a rugged individual while being a good family or team member. And they need to be supported while feeling every emotion a human being is capable of, even the difficult emotions, especially the difficult emotions. Treating boys like Ken dolls or ceramic figurines is killing our boys, literally. They need to be challenged and forced back on the horse when they fall. If not, they will learn to recoil, to shrink, and lead a flaccid, impotent life. Trying to make their life easy instead of forcing them to grow harder and to grow stronger is destructive and eventually leads boys to self-hatred. Society needs to expect more from them, not less. Interesting how more is expected of girls these days, and they are flourishing, and that's a good thing. My dogs need to be pampered, but boys do not. It hurts them to the core in the long run. Essentially, what we have here is a spiraling down of a male's opportunity, expectation, and need to compete. They are not being pushed to excel, to challenge themselves, and to align with a cause that is more important than themselves. This new environment does not allow them or even give them a reason to fight through and overcome their anxiety. To be clear, society has made it easier for males to avoid anxiety, and this is catastrophic because anxiety is the portal that all successful people must pass through. In addition, modern society has diminished the platforms for males to earn hero status and to earn masculine rites of passage. Real men are men of action. They develop their minds and bodies to perform at a high level. Muscularity is not an end to itself. It is a result of athleticism, physical work, and disciplined nutrition. Without platforms to display masculinity, these qualities are not as sought after and are not revered by men and women alike. As standards go by the wayside, men are becoming softer and downsized. Social media and the internet has also been extremely detrimental to the male experience. True masculine energy is always moving forward. It's a will to meaning, a will to power. It's expansion, it's thrusting, it's injecting, it's creative, it's solution focused, it's seeking, it's goal oriented, it's taking initiative, it's building, constructing, it's supportive, it's mentorship, it's leadership. All of this happens in the school of hard knocks. None of this happens in a virtual reality world. Today's males hide in a virtual reality world where they can text girls instead of overcoming their fear of rejection by actually talking to them. They hide by messaging a girl instead of managing a nervous, quivering voice, and still having the guts to call a girl while knowing that you might have to talk to her parents first. And now we have 18-year-old boys who hide behind a computer and can only get an erection by viewing pixels on a screen because they are scared to death of an actual intimate experience with another human being. And most, they wouldn't have the maturity to buy condoms in an actual pharmacy because they have not had to face their anxiety like previous generations of men. Their lack of ability to interact with the world in a mature way leads them to live a stagnant, unmasculine life. And I don't mean that they live a feminine life. Masculine and feminine energy both seek completion and forward movement. By unmasculine, I mean stagnant and neutral at best and regressive at worst. This new generation of unmasculine males are terrified of anxiety and seek short-term comfort at any cost. This becomes a deep-rooted core belief issue. The brain is a problem-solving machine. As such, it is important to make sure that the problem you are trying to solve is helpful. For example, if you want to improve your health, you will naturally figure out ways to move forward by acquiring knowledge and implementing behaviors to increase self-improvement. However, an unmasculine male may decide that anxiety is the problem and needs to be avoided. Their unmasculine brain will naturally conjure up complaints, excuses, hesitations, victim attitudes, acts of helplessness, boredom, whining, addictions, instant gratifications, malaise, apathy, blaming others, and blaming anything else that will stall them from moving forward. It also breeds misogyny and racism because the extra competition increases their anxiety and they can't handle it. The inability to cope with anxiety in a fruitful way induces unmasculine males to project their inadequacies on others in the form of hate and emotional dysregulation. Thus, the rise of online trolls, disenfranchised males, and legions of unmasculine male keyboard warriors who would never have the courage to have an actual face-to-face confrontation. Anxiety is a natural and helpful condition of every human being while moving to an uncertain future. And by definition, the future is always uncertain. Living in the past or living a stagnant life ensures that one lives in depression. Young boys are generally not as social or communicative as young girls. In order to overcome this and to matriculate into society, they need to be encouraged to reach out and to value communication. Young boys usually begin to communicate well with shared experiences, goals, and building camaraderie. And this is why it's so crucial to bring back and stress the importance of gym, music, and shop classes in school, as well as outside recreation and play. Another contributing factor to the demise of males is that the average boy between 8 to 12 years old spends about 4.5 hours per day in front of screen media. And it's about 6 hours per day, every day, if you include listening to music. Parents who allow this are encouraging anxiety, depression, loneliness, lack of empathy, emotional immaturity, and are getting dangerously close to child neglect. Bill and Melinda Gates have said children should never receive a smartphone until they are at least in high school. And even then, they wouldn't allow a teenager to have a phone unless they have the prerequisite social skills to be a functional adult. The phone should also never be seen during dinner time or family get-togethers. In conclusion, I'm hoping that some people can agree with my theory about what is important to women, why women are outperforming men in modern society, and why males are dropping out of society. Hopefully, we can all do something to improve this. And to be clear about my stance, I'm happy that women are performing well, and I'm not in any way saying that men should be outperforming women. People should get what they deserve and what they earn. But I am disappointed that so many males are choosing not to perform at all and are not even trying to move forward to reach their full potential. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I also wonder what your opinion is. I am Joseph Perroni from the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.